a good audience, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
All my It was a sweaty show, I'll tell you for sure. Maybe too hard.
I don't know. You started to rev up. You started to rev up. I never stopped. Harry, what do you want?
I made it back. I almost was off. I was a little too nervous at first.
In January of 1971, just after his 36th birthday, Elvis was selected one of the nation's 10 outstanding young men in America for 1970. He considered this a great honor and worked diligently on his acceptance speech. A prayer breakfast was held at the Memphis Holiday Inn Rivermont on January 16th, and the keynote speaker was the United Nations Ambassador and future President of the United States, George Bush Sr. At the award ceremony at Ellis Auditorium in downtown Memphis later that evening, Elvis proudly accepted his honor and gave his famous Without a Song speech.
The JCs there? I was so nervous.
And you made a speech then, right?
It's a different ball game when you're going out to sing and you're going out to make a speech. And I had nothing prepared. I was going to go out and just ad-lib it. But when I first started talking, my voice was so high. I sounded like somebody else, you know. It was way up here in this registry. You know. It just came to me at the time. I didn't prepare it at all. I was really nervous. I don't know what I said. It's something about a song. I think I used it Without a Song the day we were in. When I was a child, ladies and gentlemen, I was a dreamer. I read comic books and I was the hero of the comic book. I saw movies and I was the hero in the movie. So every dream that I ever dreamed has come true 100 times. And these gentlemen over here, you see these type people who care, who are dedicated, you realize that it's not possible that they might be building the kingdom of heaven. It's not too far-fetched in reality. I'd like to say that I learned very early in life that without a song, the day will never end. Without a song, a man ain't got a friend. Without a song, the road will never bend. Without a song. So I'll keep singing the song. Good night.
For many months to follow, Elvis proudly wore his JC's medallion everywhere he went. He loved showing it to his friends and to his fans because of its personal significance to Elvis. Although he had received many awards in his lifetime, this award is an achievement which transcended Elvis's role as an entertainer and recognized his personal qualities. In just 2 months' time, Elvis had received a Federal Narcotics Agent badge from President Richard Nixon and had been selected as one of the nation's 10 outstanding young men in America. Elvis was on top of the world and excited to start his next season in Las Vegas at the International Hotel on January 26th. For the first year since 1956, Elvis was not involved in any films or documentaries in Hollywood, and he had none planned for the future. For the first time in 15 years, it was solely about the music and live performances again, pure and simple. Elvis's fourth season in Las Vegas opened on January 26, 1971, and closed 57 shows later on February 23rd.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the International. My name is Frankie Avalon.
During this engagement, Elvis surprised the audience with several songs that were brand new to his performance, including Snowbird, Only Believe, Help Me Make It Through the Night, and a rare live version of I'm Leaving It Up to You. The two major differences to the show were the opening and the closing. A very beautiful version of The Impossible Dream replaced Elvis's standard closing number, Can't Help Falling in Love, which was performed in the middle of the show. This change was only temporary, as the following August engagement, Can't Help Falling in Love, became once again the official and final song of every concert for the remainder of his career. The new opening was a thrilling new orchestration from the Richard Strauss song, Thus Spake Zarathustra, made popular by the 1968 Stanley Kubrick film 2001: A Space Odyssey. This new electrifying theme was the perfect introduction music to coincide with the intense feeling in the air moments before Elvis took the stage. Sammy Davis Jr. commented that when the music set in with the loud drum beat, we waited for the entry of the Roman warriors. Elvis liked this opening so well, on several occasions during his engagement, Elvis had the orchestra play it again in the middle of the concert. He then commented, "That's how we part the Red Sea," to the audience. As usual, it is standing room only crowds in the International Hotel during the course of Elvis's engagement. During what is typically considered the slow season for Vegas crowds, people from around the world flocked to Vegas in record numbers. Elvis was such a large draw, the entire city flourished whenever he came to town. Elvis not only spurred the local economy, he created the demand for jobs. The International Hotel reported that they required 30% more employees every time Elvis came to town. Every Elvis engagement was something new and exciting.
When people come backstage and have to say, what are you doing? What are you taking? I enjoy it. It's true. I enjoy what I'm doing. You know. I'm a little nuts. That helps. I hope you don't take offense to me getting, we do that up here just to keep ourselves in shape.
You never really knew what would happen next with Elvis, and this particular engagement was not without incident. A few weeks into the engagement, Elvis came down with a fever, but refused to obey the doctor's orders and cancel any of his performances.
I'd like to tell you, those that got kissed, that I have the flu. And I'll be around in the back later. I usually make the rounds, you know, up in the balcony. My lines, I'm with them.
During the midnight show on February 19th, an overzealous fan ran onto stage to hug Elvis and knocked his microphone into his mouth, chipping his tooth. The audience never knew it, but through all the fun and excitement, Elvis and his group were on pins and needles throughout the entire engagement because of a death threat on Elvis that was personally called into the hotel a few days before opening night. The attempt to extort $50,000 in unmarked cash in exchange for the name of the assassin was serious enough to involve the FBI, who quickly took control of Elvis's personal security. A hotel menu was then found in Elvis's mail slot at the Hilton front desk, with Elvis's defaced photo on the front and a pistol drawn pointing at his heart. At the bottom was the message, "Guess who and where." Although Elvis took the threat very seriously, he refused to allow it to interfere with his performance. Elvis's security, hotel security, and the FBI watched the audience intently through the entire engagement without incident, and the extortionist was never heard from again. On February 1st, 1971, Elvis's daughter Lisa Marie turned 3 years old. She was there to watch her daddy perform at the dinner show, and Elvis proudly introduced her to the audience. Elvis had a birthday party for her in his hotel suite, and members of the Denver Police Department who were in Vegas on Elvis's invitation attended the party as well as several of Elvis's performances. Elvis said that Lisa received so many birthday gifts that he was going to have to charter a plane to fly all the presents back home. At the end of the engagement, Elvis put on a fantastic closing performance for the grateful fans. Many celebrities were in attendance, including Juliet Prowse and Nancy Sinatra. Elvis thanked the audience for coming out and said, "The economy of the country is down, but you came out anyway." He really appreciated the fans and their loyalty, and until the very end, he never took them for granted. When Elvis was in Vegas, he liked to attend shows like everyone else, especially when a close friend was performing. After working the fans and the audience into a frenzy for 57 straight performances, Elvis himself became the fan in that same showroom the following day as Anne Margaret opened at the International. Elvis had a guitar-shaped flower arrangement sent to her, something he would do on opening night of every one of her Vegas engagements until his death in 1977. On March 3, 1971, Elvis and his family flew back to Memphis under the names Dr. and Mrs. John Carpenter and Lisa Carpenter. Dr. John Carpenter was the name of Elvis's character in his 1969 film Change of Habit. It was one of several names he would use over the years to hide his identity. Another commonly used name was John Burroughs. When they arrived back in Memphis, Elvis walked down from the plane in true Elvis fashion. He was dressed in a black velvet outfit, black leather gloves, smoking a cigar, and carrying a large police flashlight. Elvis all the way. Elvis had a few weeks to rest before it was back to work in the studios to record songs for his next album. During this time, Elvis and his entourage attended a closed-circuit telecast of the first Ali Frazier fight at the Ellis Auditorium in Memphis on March 8th.
Main event, 15 rounds for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world.
The fight was broadcast live from Madison Square Garden in New York. Elvis was personally escorted by Shelby County Deputy Sheriff A.C. Gills, who was there as official police security for Elvis. Elvis loved Muhammad Ali, and over the years they developed a close friendship. Ali once said, "People don't realize what they had till it's gone. Like President Kennedy, nobody like him. Like the Beatles, there will never be anything like them. Like my man Elvis Presley. I was the Elvis of boxing." On March 15, 1971, Elvis arrived in Nashville at RCA Studio B. Elvis had such incredible success with his previous recordings, the bar was set high for Elvis to replicate or surpass his past success. From this single recording session, Elvis was expected to deliver enough material for 3 different albums in 3 different areas of music: pop, gospel, and Christmas, as well as several singles.
Son of a bitch. No, here, try here where the voice box is. Yeah. La 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 la.
Elvis had something totally different in mind. He was interested in doing more of a folk album and recorded songs like Early Morning Rain, That's What You Get for Loving Me, and the Roberta Flack song, The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face.
Yeah. The first time ever I saw your friggin' face. Right on. Maybe it's too late. He likes that song. He gets homesick when he hears it. Have you really?
Elvis also recorded the gospel standard Amazing Grace in such a way that touched your very soul. It was apparent that whatever style of music he decided to record, he would do it with a conviction that made every song his own. Unfortunately, the recording session was cut short because of problems Elvis was experiencing with his eye. With only one day of Elvis's paid-up studio time used, he gave the remaining time to his lead guitarist, James Burton, who used the studio time and session band to record a solo album for A&M Records. The Guitar Sounds of James Burton was an instrumental release that included several songs from Elvis's live concerts. Meanwhile, the problem with Elvis's eye was serious enough to require him to be hospitalized in Nashville for 3 days. After being discharged, he was photographed by a fan with a patch over his eye covered by sunglasses. Elvis was treated for inflammation of the iris and secondary glaucoma. He later told a friend the eye problem was more serious than they put in the papers, but then admitted that he told them what to print.
What you been doing, recording that? Well, that's what I was doing. I was in the process of making an album, but the eye thing just blew everything sideways, you know. Oh, yeah? So, I gotta go to L.A. and spend Easter with the family, you know. Yeah. And I said I gotta make that album. I gotta make a Christmas album and a gospel album and a couple of singles, you know. Yeah. Then I thought I'd go on a short tour. I'll be back in Vegas this summer, you know. Oh, yeah? When do you think you'll be there? I don't know, Ron. Either July or August. July or August, huh? But we're going to go on some tour before then, you know. Yeah. Man, I sure want to thank you for the good time we had there in Vegas. Well, we really enjoyed it. I'm glad y'all did. Oh, my wife it was an experience she'll never forget. We really enjoyed it, and if you're going to be out there again, maybe we'd make it out there again. Yeah, I'll be out there in August. You know, just let us know. Let Joe know. We've been in the same place. Yeah. It's usually better in August. It's usually, it's usually better for us because it's much more exciting crowds, you know. Yeah. Get a lot of younger kids there because school's out and everything. Yeah. You get a wilder crowd. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, it's not really wild, but it's more excitement, you know. Yeah. Everybody's doing fine. Tell them I asked about them, and I'm doing okay. And the eye thing was a little more serious than they put in the paper, you know. Yeah, but you never know if they're playing it up or down. Yeah, well, I told them what to put in the paper. I told them to say eye infection because that's what I want to be. Serious glaucoma, you know. Huh. Well, I'm glad everything's coming out okay. Yeah, but it's all gone. It's all cleared up. I'm running around now.
In the meantime, Colonel Parker had devised an ingenious plan to market Elvis's new Worldwide Gold Award Hits Volume 2 4LP box set to the fans. Because of his eye problem, Elvis was unable to go to California to sign the contracts, but on March 23rd, he sent the Colonel a letter saying, "Dear Colonel, due to my present illness with eye infection, it may be a few days before I'm able to return to the West Coast. Therefore, I will be unable to sign a contract with this one merchandising deal with RCA Victor. Therefore, I would like to authorize you to sign my name on this deal. The deal sounds fantastic. I hope to be up and back in the swing of things real soon. Sincerely, Elvis Presley." The deal Elvis was referring to was a brainstorm of Colonel Parker, a mastermind at the art of marketing he devised a plan to include a small swatch of clothing from Elvis's personal wardrobe with every record set. Personal articles of Elvis's clothing would be collected and boxed by Elvis's father, Vernon Presley, and sent to the Colonel's office at MGM in Hollywood. There they would be sorted and placed into shipping trunks and sent to RCA in New York. In this original memo from his office at MGM, dated March 24, 1971, the Colonel outlined his strict guidelines for the operation. Trunks containing Elvis's clothing were to contain shirts, pants, ties, scarves, and coats. They were to be shipped air freight only, in lots of at least 6 trunks at a time, and insured for $1,000 per trunk. The memo read in part, "This project must be treated in the same way as if we did a tour, made a picture or TV show. It will most likely be the most important project for income this year, so let's not be sloppy with it. I must be able to call for and receive an up-to-date project report on this at all times." 1 week later, the Colonel signed a contract with RCA that outlined the agreement with his company, known as All-Star Shows. RCA agreed to pay $3.50 per sold unit of the first 150,000 LP disc packages, which included all artist royalties, a special Elvis Presley picture, and a swatch of Elvis Presley's clothing. RCA agreed to advance payment on the first 100,000 units, with the first $75,000 to be paid before June 10, 1971. The Colonel signed on behalf of Elvis, who was still recovering from his eye illness. Back in Memphis, boxes of Elvis's clothing that were awaiting shipment were scattered all over the entryway, living room, and dining room at Graceland. About that time, Mike McGregor, who was in charge of Elvis's ranch and horses, happened to come by and walked in from the back and saw the clothing and the boxes everywhere. When he asked Elvis what he was doing with all those clothes, Elvis said, "RCA wants them. They're going to cut them up for a big promotion that they're doing." Mike said, "That's a lot of nice clothes going to waste." Elvis replied, "Well, hell, Mike, go through them and take what you want. They'll never know the difference." Mike went through the clothing and picked out several things that were attractive to him. Among the items he selected was a white jacket, a maroon jacket, and a black jacket and pants that were made of leather. As fate would have it, what Mike McGregor unknowingly saved from the chopping block included the white jacket Elvis was wearing when he performed If I Can Dream, the maroon jacket Elvis was wearing for the gospel production numbers, and the legendary 2-piece black leather outfit, all worn by Elvis for his 1968 NBC TV special. These items are now preserved for all fans to see on display at Elvis's Graceland home. 25 specially prepared trunks filled with 790 articles of Elvis's clothing arrived at RCA headquarters in New York. The inventory list was an impressive reflection of the fashion styles of Elvis Presley, mainly from the 1960s. As per the Colonel's instructions, the clothing was cut into 2 by 3 inch swatches. The swatches were then placed into specially printed window envelopes that read, "Something from Elvis's wardrobe for you." Also delivered to RCA from Elvis and the Colonel was 1 trunk containing 12 different outfits, with their compliments, to be used for special prizes for the top sales promotion in regard to this new sales project. Later, 3 more trunks containing 100 selected items were sent, and the Colonel sent instructions to not cut these items up, but to give 1 item to each distributor to build enthusiasm in the promotion of this big campaign. According to the Colonel's personal inventory lists, this collection of clothing also included 3 of Elvis's jumpsuits. Elvis's new Worldwide Gold Award Hits Volume 2 was a huge success, and the fans loved being able to own a small piece of Elvis's actual wardrobe. Just 10 weeks after the contract was signed, the Colonel received his first $75,000 payment from RCA. After deducting every imaginable expense, including the Colonel's office and travel expense, the balance was divided between Elvis and Colonel Parker, and a check was sent to Elvis from All-Star Shows for his share, which came to $18,832.50. The ingenious marketing plan guaranteed a total payment of over $500,000 to Elvis, to be split 50-50 with Colonel Parker. After all expenses were paid, This deal earned them over $243,000 each. And since the albums were mostly B-sides to previously released singles, Elvis never had to lift a finger throughout the entire project. After the fruitless results of the last recording session that was cut short the first day due to Elvis's eye infection, the pressure was mounting at RCA, who had already announced the upcoming release of a new Christmas album. In an attempt to instill the seriousness of the situation, RCA sent a Western Union telegram to George Parkhill, who was their liaison to Elvis and the Colonel. The telegram said, "Please convey the following to the Colonel immediately. As per his request, we will await word from him before we set any dates for another recording session in Nashville for EP. We agree it is vital that all areas, particularly EP's health, must be in tip-top shape for the next session, and only the Colonel is in the position to judge when the timing is right. We do appreciate him handling this matter personally. We know the time and money spent for the next session will result in something that will benefit us all, unlike the last session held in Nashville recently." On May 15, 1971, exactly 1 month after his last failed attempt due to illness, Elvis returned to RCA Studio B in Nashville to resume his recording sessions. To help him get into the Christmas spirit, the studio was decorated as if it was actually Christmas in May, complete with a decorated Christmas tree and a live Santa Claus. The first few days, Elvis tried to get through the Christmas songs, although his heart was not in it. Then, during a break, thankfully the tapes were still rolling when Elvis and the band broke into an 11-minute version of the Bob Dylan song, "Don't Think Twice, It's All Right." Most of the Christmas songs recorded during this session would later be released on the Winter Wonderland album, and the gospel songs would be released on the He Touched Me album. Then, during another break on May 19th, Elvis relaxed at the piano and recorded 3 songs that turned out to be the highlight of the entire session: "I Will Be True," "It's Still Here," and "I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen." The following day, Elvis concentrated mainly on pop songs and recorded "I'm Leavin'," "We Can Make the Morning," and "It's Only Love." By the last day of the recording session on May 21st, 1971, Elvis had recorded 30 masters. He returned to the studio for a third time on June 8th and spent the next 3 days recording the remainder of his gospel songs, redoing one Christmas song, and recording a dramatic version of Frank Sinatra's "My Way." Elvis spent the next month relaxing in Memphis before his upcoming engagement in Lake Tahoe. Almost every evening, Elvis would take in several movies at the Memphian and Crosstown theaters. He would screen movies on a regular basis, and oftentimes before they were officially released to the general public. In July of 1971, Elvis returned to Los Angeles to begin rehearsals for his first ever engagement at Lake Tahoe. The engagement will begin on July 20th, 1971, in the High Sierra Room at Del Webb Sahara Tahoe in State Line, Nevada. Rehearsals were held at RCA Studios on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, California, and would continue for several days. Elvis had a good time banging on the piano and singing songs he had no intentions of using in the shows. He fooled around with Soul Man, as well as Roy Orbison's "Only the Lonely" and Dean Martin's "The Glory of Love." One of the songs he worked diligently to perfect was the B.J. Thomas song, "It's Only Love." Elvis loved to sing rare songs in the studio and would have loved to record even more great songs. In a press conference in New York the following year, Elvis admitted it was hard to get good material.
It's very difficult to find that type of song. It's hard to find good material nowadays, for everybody, for all of us. It's very difficult to find any good hard rock songs. If I could find them, I would do them.
The truth of the matter is, the very man who was responsible for making such great business decisions for Elvis during his career was the very person responsible for hindering Elvis's success in other areas.
As long as I was with Elvis Presley, I never was involved with what songs he was going to record. Very seldom I was ever in the studio. He picked his own songs with the songwriters, whatever they were, and he never asked me, should I do this or that? It was up to him. He liked it that way. The only song that I was able to have him record, because I thought it was good for him, was Are You Lonesome Tonight? That's the only one.
Although Colonel Parker never told him what to record, Elvis could have recorded many more great songs than he did if it were not for the Colonel's outrageous demands on the songwriters. Dolly Parton is one example of this. Elvis expressed interest in recording her 1974 hit, I Will Always Love You. As much as she would have loved for Elvis to record her song, Colonel Parker demanded half of the songwriting credit and half of the publishing royalties. She refused to give up half of the credit to someone who had no hand in the song's composition. Dolly was so torn that she later confessed that she cried all night over the decision. In the end, she laughed all the way to the bank, because not only did she make the song a hit record, but when Whitney Houston recorded it several years later, Dolly Parton earned $6 million from the song in royalties. If she had agreed to the Colonel's demand, the Elvis Presley estate would have received half of the proceeds. Dolly is quoted as saying, I'd still love to have heard him sing it, wouldn't you? But unfortunately, he never did. Many songwriters were so flattered that they readily agreed, but many other talented writers received the same demands from the Colonel, so unfortunately, the course of Elvis's recording career was dramatically affected. On July 20th, 1971, Elvis opened for the first time ever in the High Sierra Room at the Sahara Tahoe in State Line, Nevada. Elvis would receive $300,000 for his 28-show, 2-week engagement, a record high for any previous entertainer at the Sahara. It was actually $25,000 a week more than he was getting paid at the International in Las Vegas. The demand for tickets was so great, the hotel expanded their showroom to seat 1,700 people instead of the usual 1,200. Comedian Nipsey Russell opened for Elvis during this engagement. Elvis loved the smaller, more intimate setting in Tahoe, and he worked hard to please his fans there. He started throwing scarves into the audience, but unlike later years, he only gave out a handful per concert. He also threw small teddy bears into the audience, and on one night he gave away several 4 LP sets and remarked, "Next time I'll give away the piano." Elvis couldn't wait to spring a gag on the audience in Tahoe that he had pulled on the fans in Vegas in February. He turned his back to the audience as the lights were all turned off except a spotlight on the back of his head and a spotlight on the hands of bass player Jerry Scheff. As the familiar opening bass notes to the song, You've Lost That Lovin' Feeling, were thumped, with his back still to the audience, Elvis sang, You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips. There's no tenderness anymore in your fingertips. You're trying hard not to show it, but baby, I know it. And as Elvis suddenly turned around to face the audience, all the stage lights came on at once as he sang, You've Lost That Lovin' Feeling. The fans screamed with laughter as they saw Elvis wearing a monkey mask he had rented from a local costume store. He looked like a gorilla in a jumpsuit, and the fans loved it. One of the highlights of the engagement took place during the midnight show on August 1st. Elvis surprised the audience with a rare live performance of his new gospel song, I, John. At the close of the 2-week engagement, Elvis had performed to almost 48,000 fans and broke all previous attendance records. Billboard magazine said, Elvis left behind him a sold-out auditorium which was almost as exhausted emotionally, if not physically, as he was. He worked so hard that you'd think he needed the money. The day after Elvis closed in Tahoe, he flew directly to Las Vegas to start rehearsals for his 5th season there. The International Hotel was under new management, and the newly named Hilton Hotel was Elvis's new exclusive home for performing in Las Vegas until the end of his career. Hilton Vice President Harry Lewin stated that, My first meeting with Colonel Parker was 5 hours after Mr. Hilton took over the hotel, so you can imagine how important Elvis was. Tom Jones, Engelbert Humperdinck, Barbra Streisand, they're all great stars, but there is only one who, when you announce his name, he is sold out for the duration of the engagement. Never before and never again do I think that will be possible. Colonel Parker agreed to let Elvis continue under the new ownership on the same terms, even though he was not legally obligated. On August 9, 1971, just 1 week after closing in Lake Tahoe, Elvis opened his second annual Elvis Summer Festival. Opening for Elvis during this engagement was comedian Bob Melvin.
We have learned through performing in nightclubs the way different people laugh at a different joke. If you do anything suggestive, the single girl inadvertently always laughs in back of her hand. Because if she laughs loud, the guy she's with immediately says, hey, this broad knows something.
When Elvis hit the stage, the packed-out Las Vegas showroom came unglued with exhilaration. The energy that radiated from his mere presence was a phenomenon that has been described by countless people who experienced Elvis through the years. It made no difference if you were male or female, an ordinary individual or a celebrity superstar. Elvis affected everyone he came in contact with the same way. Elvis delighted his fans with several of his past hits as well as many new songs he had recorded earlier that year. During one performance, he sang in German a rare version of the song Wooden Heart from his 1960 film G.I. Blues, and performed a rare medley of the songs Polk Salad Annie with the gospel song I John. During another show, he performed a segment of his 1961 record Marie's the Name. Elvis was a lover of all types of music, and he owned a massive collection of records by a wide variety of singers. On occasion, Elvis would sing a line or two of an obscure song on stage that he'd never recorded. During this engagement in the summer of 1971, Elvis sang a portion of several songs, including Rip It Up and I Need Your Lovin' Every Day. Oftentimes, after introducing a celebrity in the audience, Elvis would sing a line from one of their songs. After introducing Charley Pride in the audience on August 10th, Elvis sang a line of Kalijah. When Charlie returned to the closing show on September 6th, Elvis sang a line from The Easy Part's Over. With only 4 days of rest, then 3 days of rehearsal since ending his last engagement in Lake Tahoe, the pace that Elvis kept often led to illness. Midway through his engagement, Elvis was having throat problems and a specialist was called in to treat Elvis between performances. Elvis was advised to avoid songs which demanded that he sing high notes and not distress his voice more than was absolutely necessary. For this reason, Elvis did not talk as much between songs as he usually did, and some of the shows were noticeably shorter than usual. Through it all, Elvis was determined to give it his all. His incredible stage presence and never-ending desire to please his fans ensured that every performance was everything a fan could ask for. Elvis loved interacting with his fans, and some were more bold than others, but Elvis took everything in stride and was able to find humor in almost any situation. One evening, as Elvis bent down to kiss a fan, she took a scarf and wiped the perspiration from his face, then his neck, then his chest, then his partially exposed stomach, and the audience cheered her on as Elvis laughed and said, "Just leave her alone, let's see how far she goes. And kill the lights, I may be here for a while." As usual, the audience in Las Vegas included several celebrities who loved Elvis's performance as much as any other fan. They included Tom Jones, Charley Pride, Bill Medley, Brenda Lee, Jerry Lewis, and Raquel Welch. Elvis would always introduce them to the audience and oftentimes visit with them in the suite after the show. Another person in the audience that Elvis introduced was none other than the Hawaiian karate champion Mike Stone. After watching him in a karate tournament in Hawaii, Elvis was impressed by his fighting abilities. In his suite after the show, Elvis discussed martial arts and said he would like for his wife Priscilla to take lessons. Before long, Priscilla was taking lessons from Mike Stone, and before the year was over, Priscilla left Elvis for Mike. On August 28th, Elvis met in his dressing room with Chris Crosby, the son of Bing Crosby, and other officials who presented him with the prestigious Bing Crosby Award. Granted by a vote of the National Board of Trustees of the National Academy of Recording Arts and Science, for his outstanding creative and artistic contributions of long-lasting duration in the field of phonographic recordings. The award reads, "To Elvis Presley, as acknowledgement for your artistic creativity and your influence on entertainment music and on a generation of artists and listeners whose life you have enriched with your outstanding performance and whose musical horizons you have broadened." This prestigious award has only been given to 5 other people previous to Elvis: Bing Crosby, who was the very first recipient, Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Duke Ellington, and Irving Berlin. In music, there was no higher honor. When Elvis closed the engagement on September 6th, he wore a brand new black jumpsuit with gold studs and, for the first time ever, a matching cape. Elvis had achieved yet another record-breaking engagement and beaten his own attendance record on closing night by attracting a total of 4,428 people in 2 shows on a single day. This figure would never be topped because fire safety laws were broken to achieve it, and the legal limit was 2,000 people per show. Elvis put on a fantastic closing performance, and the press reported, "There's nothing rational about an Elvis appearance. He finds endearing and apparently enduring humor in parodying himself. He may be a monumental put-on at one moment, a serious singer the next, and sober gospel singer the next. His spice is his unpredictability and his unpretentious enjoyment of being who and what he is. As a performer, Elvis is most undisputedly the reigning monarch." Before closing, Elvis acknowledged his fans by saying, "Without you, man, it don't mean nothing. Just a big old cold-ass room." As the final song started, Elvis interrupted himself and stopped the music to say, "People ask me, am I going to quit? When are you going to stop? No. You know, it's funny, really. Retiring? I love it. I dig it. If I couldn't sing, I'd dry up like a prune." After 28 shows in Tahoe and 57 shows in Vegas, the combined total from July 20th through September 6th was an amazing 85 live performances. Elvis spent the next 2 months catching up on some well-deserved rest, while Elvis fans around the world enjoyed the new release of his latest records, "I Got Lucky" and "The Wonderful World of Christmas." Before the start of the next tour, Elvis replaced his male backup group, the Imperials, with legendary Southern bass singer J.D. Sumner and his Stamps Quartet.
The Imperials started double booking. They started working with Jimmy Dean also. And it came up to where they were booked with Jimmy Dean, and Elvis wanted to do a tour. And so when the Imperials were under contract and could not go with Elvis, then Elvis had to have a gospel quartet because he believed that the big sound of a gospel quartet, and that he wanted a choir sound, that of the Sweet Inspirations, who were former gospel singers, and the Stamps Quartet. Gospel singers give you the big choir sound that Elvis Presley knew that he wanted to present in his live shows. I was sort of thinking about retiring. I was older than Elvis. And I had decided to put another bass singer and work him into the Stamps Quartet. And I had Richard Turbin, who is now with the Oak Ridge Boys, singing bass. Elvis said, "What are you doing, J.D.?" And I said, "Well, I got a bass singer. You don't need me." He said, "I don't." He said, "I want some of those 56 endings." What he meant by that was, he wanted me.
Boston, Cincinnati, Houston, Dallas, Tuscaloosa, Kansas City, and he closed the tour in Salt Lake City on November 16th. Elvis received rave reviews everywhere he performed. He took the fans' breath away with each glittering performance. His karate endings during Suspicious Minds were so spectacular, the audience would not stop applauding. The ending of Bridge Over Troubled Water was so dynamic, Elvis received regular standing ovations in each city, which prompted Elvis to reprise the last verse for his adoring fans. Elvis's 74-year-old grandfather, Jesse Presley, proudly attended the concert in Louisville, Kentucky. It was only the second time he had witnessed his grandson perform since November 25, 1956, when Elvis was in Louisville. After Elvis became famous, Jesse recorded a 45 RPM single entitled Jesse Presley Rocks and Sings. His big hit songs? Swingin' in the Orchard and the Billy Goat Song.
This is Mr. Jesse Presley. He is the grandfather of Elvis Presley. This Mr. Presley is a carpenter by trade, but throughout his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, he is also quite well known as a singer of folk songs. Now, sir, let me ask you this. Do you rock and roll?
No, sir, but I rock while I sing.
You rock while you sing?
Yes.
He means in an actual rocking chair. He says he feels more comfortable rocking while he's singing. So you can see where some of this pelvic movement came from.
By the time the tour had ended, Elvis had performed to almost 200,000 exhilarated fans and earned over $800,000 after expenses. Although there were trials in his personal life with the disintegration of his marriage, 1971 was without a doubt a gratifying and prosperous year for Elvis in many other areas. He flourished in every aspect of his career. Even without making a single film, he still made a considerable profit from his motion pictures alone. He broke attendance records in Las Vegas, Lake Tahoe, and just about every tour city he appeared in. Production of records easily surpassed the previous year. They were being released so rapidly they did not remain in the charts for long because the consumers had so many to choose from. Yet no other recording artist was not only able to release so many records, but to sell them. Billboard reported that Elvis led the overall list of rhythm and blues for the time frame 1957 through 71, and worldwide, RCA sold about 11 million Elvis records. There was no question about it. Elvis had the world on a string, and the string around his finger. It was clearly Elvis's world, and everyone else just lived in it.
You're a good audience, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.